When the end came, I was planning to go home for the new year when snow suddenly began to fall in my city and the temperature plummeted to minus 37 degrees Celsius. I was glad to get a ticket home, but did not know that 29 is the human train to the extreme cold. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon on February 7, 2024, I was jammed at the entrance of the train station, unable to move. On the day of returning home, the whole city suddenly had a heavy snow, the sky was cloudy. I went to the railway station early with my luggage. The original plan was to arrive early, grab a seat in the waiting hall and wait for the car, but I did not expect to wait for the ticket. I was directly blocked in the entrance. The snow is still falling, and it is even getting worse. I was standing at the end of the line, and within a few minutes or so, there were countless people on both sides and behind, and I was in the middle. There are too many people in the Spring Festival, and the team gradually forms, forming a square wall without seeing the end, and no one is aware of the danger coming. The weather is too cold, I am numb to the toes. The front of the team came to complain. I heard that the car in the station today is all late. Yes, my daughter-in-law just gave me a look. The car back to Shenyang was cancelled, only this one trip. That cannot let us outside the cold, this cold to catch up with 39 days, I heard. The pocket of the mobile phone out to search the ticket. Sure enough, my train home also suspended the sale. I put the crazy shop mobile phone back in the down jacket pocket, with the hand to cover it hot. I do not want to miss the last train home, can only choose to continue to queue. At the beginning, I thought about how long the train would be delayed to the back. It was too cold, my face was numb, my brain was chaotic, and I felt tears were forced out by the cold wind in the blink of an eye. A breath, the cold wind like a sharp way to charge, to stab back and forth in my throat, even if the hand hidden in the down coat, the cold or mercilessly gnawing the remaining warmth. I finally gave up, pulled the trolley and buried the bottom half of my face in my scarf, put my hands back in my pockets, and lowered my head and closed my eyes like a pillar. At one point I felt like I was falling asleep standing up. I do not know how long it took. I was pushed forward by the crowd and took 2 steps. I forcibly lifted my sleepy eyelids, and my brain was frozen in the sudden cooling. For a time, I could not think that soup should appear in the team, and I could feel the movement around me getting louder and louder, gradually reaching the point of noise. I tried to stand on tiptoe to look around for a circle, and before I could wait for a reaction, the team behind me pushed me forward, and I could not stand steadily, and the whole person shook to the east and west, but the crisis consciousness etched in my bones forced my brain to turn, and I looked around and found something was wrong. I tried to shout at the top of my voice, but because I had been moving outside for too long, my mouth was not sharp, until I watched the girl in front of me look frightened and be pushed down by others. I bit on my tongue, and finally I could speak. I shouted that I had stepped on someone with my tongue big, and moved my body to the left. At this time there were about 4 rows on my left, and all the people on my right originally wanted to squeeze out from the left. The pressure on the left side did not decrease. Some people were angry and crowded forward, some people were anxious to drill into the gap in the team, and the negative emotions of humans broke out in an instant, which made my whole body stand up. I raised the spirit, suddenly picked up the box in front of the chest to go to the left, the first to struggle out of the team. The slow response is not so fine, standing unstable, falling down, the people behind the overwhelming pressure. I did not dare to look back, turned to the station outside the bridge to run. Cold air choked me, cough up tears. Kong Yang body has not fully recovered a few steps. I felt my heart pounding, my suitcase pounding and my own arm tingling, and the sound of police whistles, cries, and the roar of the train arriving slamming into my eardrums. I got to the bridge as fast as I could in my life. I gasped and looked back. For about 30 seconds, I couldn't think. On the way down the bridge, I had a late realization that I might be on social news. The weather is too cold, the cold air is scrambling to drill into the clothes, I am cold all over the body straight edge. In the taxi line 200 people's phone battery was frozen to 15%, and I chose all the models in one go. More and more people escaped from the railway station. I was afraid of stampede again, dare not go to the crowded place, at this time would rather be outside the cold, do not want to crowd with others in the next shop, there are parents with children next to the cold people in the bank, probably their children are small, hope to give a few $100, let the people inside to give a place. The child looked at the state is okay, playing water into ice behind the adults, the hot water in the thermos cup drew a beautiful arc in the air, I looked at the scalp numbness, fingers uncontrolled open Baidu, click search water into ice to how much below zero with 2% battery left on my phone, I hit the box and the driver of the 6-seater van drove around 5 minutes late, and it was completely dark, probably from the aftermath, and I felt a little tightness in my chest. After getting in the car, while charging my phone, I opened a letter, and a series of messages popped out. The top was a screenshot sent by the family group I had placed on the top half an hour ago, because of the heavy snow. B is that all flights were cancelled, we all realized that something was wrong. When the phone was dialed in the past, my parents were in the largest shopping center at home where the noise was noisy, and I felt crowded across the phone. I told them that I did not go back this year, and hurriedly ended the phone. I know we don't have much time. I'm holding hands and trying to connect the dots. Extreme weather, water into ice, flight cancellation, I played and deleted the words in the dialog box, deleted and played again, and finally I opened with a dry voice, Master, my home twice the bus fare, let's go to the largest outdoor goods store in the neighborhood. There are not many people in the outdoor goods store, because the Spring Festival holiday, there are only 2 employees to look at the store. I braved the wind to enter, and the people inside were chilled by the cold air on me. All I asked for was a sleeping bag from the store. The old girl was very enthusiastic and pulled me to give me a detailed introduction. I waved my hand to refuse, directly asked for the best cold effect in the store, and then took the winter clothes worn from small to large to fold behind, and the card protective fire clothing used for hot water cooking and so on. I took a picture of the receipt and posted it to my family group. Because of the purchase of too many things, the little girl saw no guests, and helped me carry it to the car. Before she left, I advised her to stock up on cold supplies as well. The little girl looked at the increasing number of guests and did not look at the heart. I looked at the completely dark day, no more advice, turned to get on the car. Back in the car, I followed the idea of food, clothing, housing, and transportation to continue to move. I opened a group to try to stock up on food. Several large supermarkets showed that they were short of capacity, and other stores also reminded when they placed orders that the order was full. As things stand, I'm not going to waste any more energy on food. Before, because of the epidemic, I had stocked up on supplies that could last for 3 months, although it was not much, but it was enough to last for a while. I left a message to my family, I will only go to the nearby pharmacy to reduce the fever of ibuprofen and acetaminophen, because the recent outbreak of Yang, my family has, but extreme weather is easy to cause all kinds of problems in cardiovascular blood supply. I must go to the pharmacy to prepare this kind of medicine, because today is the 29th year, everyone gets off work early, waiting for me to arrive. The pharmacy was closing, so I grabbed 4 boxes of baby warming kits and some basic medicine. After buying these, the snow outside was blown by the wind, cannot see the road, is to add money, the driver is not willing to change the route. I was so sick of storing up so many things for him, I just wanted to get this done and go home and clean up. After getting off the bus in the new year, the master took the initiative to help me move things to the door of the unit, and I was still on guard against whether he wanted to take my supplies, but he did not think that he really helped me. My eyes are hot, want to take a cold suit to his master to see. I smiled, little brother, keep it for yourself, what's the matter, you gave me one, we are not enough. He finally waved at me, turned around and walked away, and I'll be glad to have some time with my family. Master under the wind and snow away, his figure was swallowed by the darkness around, I can only faintly see the deep car lights on, I did not see a few eyes to feel the snow scrambling to my eyes drill. I looked down at my mobile phone, and the last message was a list of drugs sent to the family group half an hour ago, and no one in the group replied, and I couldn't control my imagination. But within 2 seconds, I sniffed the jelly nose and began to dispose of the supplies piled up in front of the building. Reality tells me that no matter how to look at it, it is my situation that is worse, or first protect their own lives and then live reunion. After getting home, the warmth of the home let me spirit for a while, I touched the heating, it is still hot, not the worst situation, I ceased to cook a bag of instant noodles for myself, after eating a simple mouth, the video phone at home came. In the camera, they proudly showed me the materials stored today, in addition to the list I made, they also bought extra lime, coal, solar generator, these supplies. The clown was myself, I was not willing to be weak to show what I bought. The opposite side of the camera is obviously less sad, we are a family of 3 separated from each other, the display of materials is our encouragement to each other. We must get through this winter and meet in the spring when the flowers bloom. Before hanging up the video, my parents told me that today's temperature had fallen to -43 degrees, which was the same as the usual time, but it was also a sudden snowfall and the temperature dropped sharply. I live alone, so I must not take it lightly. The lowest temperature in my history is only -27 degrees, and the heating system is still hot, which does not mean that the heating system in the subsequent closed room can withstand the pressure of -40 or 50 degrees. I need to get ready while it's still good. After hanging up the phone, I began to organize the supplies, first using the outdoor equipment electric sealant used to plug all the windows in the house, and then spent some time studying the solar charging panel, although this thing is not touched. Fortunately, the instructions are clearly written, and it will be ready in an hour. Then I made the bed flat and propped the tent on top, as close to the heat as possible. This is the bed, although it is 2 by 2 meters, but it is still a little small for the tent. I took the box of self-high-pot instant noodles bought before to put the tent out of the mat, finally have a sample. I took a waterproof mat and a sleeping bag to put in the tent, and the rest of the sleeping bag was not far from the bed, so that I could buy it at any time. Each has a piece of cold clothing in the tent, and the rest are also placed by the bed. The cassette stove is first placed on the small table next to the exit of the tent, and can be moved into the tent if it is cold later. The gas tanks for the carpet-type furnaces are more important, and can only be stored at -20 degrees Celsius, so I simply take them to the hooks tucked into the side of the tent. In fact, because of the time shortage, I did not buy many things, and it was only 3 hours before I arranged them all around the tent. I turned the house upside down, prioritized consumption according to the extremely cold conditions, and calculated that food and water would be enough to support me for 3 months. As long as the authorities have the ability to solve the problem, They will certainly rebuild after the disaster as soon as possible, and the time will not exceed too long. If it cannot be solved, it is also a disaster for all mankind, but it is a matter of early death and late death. 3 months is long enough. After all this, it was already 4 a.m. on the 8th, so I simply stayed up all night preparing to grab the last wave of supplies at 6 o'clock. The wind outside was terrible, howling as if to destroy the world. In order to refresh myself, I opened my mobile phone and began to brush a certain sound. The content was normal at the beginning, until a user of Hainan IP sent a snow scene in Hainan snow. The comment area is exclaiming that the snow is beautiful, tomorrow to take photos and punch the card. Only a few users whine, 0 degrees of humidity is really not able to withstand. Probably I stayed too long in this video, was recognized by the algorithm, and then refreshed. All are videos of cooling across the country. Cantonese wearing a large thick cotton padded jacket began to bake oranges in the oven. Must be water into ice. Northeast IP sent, jumped from the village roof. The whole person directly disappeared in the thick snowdrift. Everyone found something wrong with the weather. In front of nature, human beings are very small, but I suddenly felt that extremely cold is nothing. When all mankind face extreme weather together, I am not so afraid. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I bought some more supplies and finished the last substitute board, and I finally breathed a sigh of relief and prepared to wash my face and go to bed. Open the faucet, just out of the water is good to support me after brushing my teeth. Wait until I wash my face. The water has been cold, not a few times my fingers are stimulated by cold water. I can only first wash the towel first wet, drying, then wring out. Simply wipe my face. Back to the bedroom. I touch the heating, has not been as hot as last night. I got into the tent, I lie down. It seems like a jack pressed my eyelids. The content of the dream is very messy. When I woke up again, I was frozen awake. I raised my hand to touch the tip of my nose. A little cold. How many degrees? I turned on my mobile phone. It was already 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And the temperature in Haidian district where I live was 39 degrees below zero. The WeChat group was all discussing the global cooling issue. It was said that a special interview program would be opened after the news broadcast tonight. In addition to CCTV celebrities, there are experts from all walks of life such as outdoor survival research and weather. At present, the number of online reservations for this live broadcast has exceeded 200 million, and people in the group are still discussing that they can't buy supplies. I rushed to several apps to make an appointment one by one, and set an alarm clock to prevent the card from entering the live broadcast when the time comes. The food I bought at 6 a.m. is still being delivered, and it's running over time, which is to be expected. The feeling of hunger came. I climbed out of the sleeping bag, wrapped the down jacket in the tent, and put on the red thick socks specially bought for the new year, and opened the tent ready to cook. The first thing that felt cold was my face exposed to the air. I shivered and touched the heater next to the tent. The radiator was warm, and the heat. When I came back last night, there were obvious signs of insufficient heating. I looked out the window again. It was still cloudy. The wind outside was howling against the window. There was no one on the street, only a piece of white hair. The wind was blowing stronger. I crinkled my neck to draw the curtain, began to prepare the first meal after waking up. At present, there is heating, gas, electricity, and I have decided to use these first, and do not use emergency carabiners for life. Because the kitchen is not as good as the bedroom, I plan to move all the cooking to the bedroom in the future. In order to store water before the electric pot at home, I took a pot full of water, and I moved most of the water inside to other containers for a long time, carrying the pot and a few packets of instant noodles back to the room. Cooking instant noodles, I directly took the pot as a bowl, a chopstick to pick up a big mouth of instant noodles. The aroma of pig bone soup wantonly set off waves in my mouth. After a few bites, my face was swept away. I picked up the pot again, swallowed a big mouth of hot soup. The cold in the body gradually dissipated. A pot of soup finished, the whole person warmed up. I originally thought that the temperature dropped sharply these 2 days, everyone will stay at home. I did not expect that. I just washed the pot with water. The security door was suddenly vigorously knocked. Ooh, my heart alarm bell rang. I live in a small 1-bedroom living room, so I haven't invited any friends around me. Why is a stranger knocking on my door in such a terrible weather? I usually read the zombie apocalypse, and I know that the distortion of human nature under extreme conditions is far more terrible than the disaster itself. The sudden knock on the door made me more uneasy than usual. I originally wanted to pretend that no one was there, but the people outside the door saw that I did not open the door, and knocked more violently, as if there were people living in this room. I was worried that the sound would attract more people and let things go in an uncontrollable direction, so I took the electric pot and kitchen knife to the door.